Have you ever opened your fridge and found nothing but a moldy lemon? Your child is burning up with fever. You're alone, no money, no one left to call. And when you finally gather the courage to ask for food, the one person who helps you loses their job because of it. But here's the truth. Not everyone walks away. Sometimes a stranger becomes your last lifeline. And sometimes that lifeline comes with a quiet test, one that changes your life forever. This story is inspired by real voices, mothers who hit rock bottom and found a way to rise again. By the end of this video, you'll witness how a single "I believe in you" can rebuild someone's world. You'll see why turning down dirty money was the first step toward a dignified future. And you'll understand why forgiveness isn't weakness, it's freedom. Mira used to be mocked, accused, blackmailed. Today she stands on a stage, applauded for her strength, and reaching back to lift others like her. If you've ever felt like you've lost everything, this story is for you. Where are you watching from? How far can this story travel if it reaches one more person who needs it? With love, from all of us, to each of you watching right now. A sharp flick of light cracked across the cracked linoleum floor. The refrigerator door hung open like the mouth of a thing too tired to speak. Cold mist breathed out and disappeared into the dim kitchen air. Inside, there was nothing but a single lemon, its skin wrinkled, tipped in mold, sitting like a joke at the end of a cruel sentence. Mira didn't move at first, she just stared at it. One lemon, that was it. The ticking of the wall clock filled the silence like water in a sinking room. She let the fridge door shut with a soft thud, then backed away and pulled her phone from the counter. Her fingers, stiff with cold, tapped through the banking app. Her breath hitched. Balance 0.00. A string of withdrawal notifications scrolled upward like falling rain. Rent, groceries, childcare, gone. The last name on the ledger blinked back at her. Darren Levinson, her ex-husband. The account had still been joint. She called. It rang once, then a flat, cruel message. The number you have dialed is temporarily unavailable. Her lips parted like she wanted to scream, but nothing came out. Just air, just cold. She dropped the phone face down on the counter, turned toward the hallway, and heard it. A cough, thin and dry, another, then a small whimper. Mira ran. Down the narrow hallway, paint peeling, floorboards groaning like old bones. She pushed open the door. Her daughter, Luna, no more than 4 years old, lay in bed with her legs curled up. Her cheeks flushed a dangerous red. Her tiny hands clutched a threadbare stuffed lamb. The cough rattled again, followed by a fevered moan. Mira sank to her knees beside the bed. Her own fingers trembled as she soaked a washcloth in the cold water bucket and pressed it to her daughter's forehead. No medicine, no soup, not even electricity for heat by tomorrow. Luna's breath hitched. She reached out, searching in sleep. Mira took her daughter's hand. The child's small fingers wrapped tight around hers, as if afraid she might drift away. Outside, winter scratched against the windows. The radiator had gone cold 3 days ago. The grocery list was a memory. The landlord's final notice was taped to the door, its ink already bleeding. Somewhere deep in the dark between these walls, a wire hummed faintly, but the silence beneath it was louder. Mira leaned her forehead against the edge of the bed and whispered to no one. "I'm trying, baby, I'm trying." But in that moment, trying felt like shouting into a canyon and waiting for it to echo back food, warmth, help. She didn't cry. There were no more tears left to cry. She stayed like that until the coughs faded and Luna slipped back into uneasy sleep. Then she stood, slow and quiet, and walked back into the kitchen. She stared at the lemon again. This time, her hand reached for it. Its skin was soft. The mold had spread underneath. She held it, then set it gently on the windowsill like something that deserved a funeral. She turned back to the fridge. Empty shelves. No butter, no milk, no rice. Just the bitter draft seeping in through cracked seals. A single fly buzzed in and out of the light. Then Mira did something strange. She laughed. Soft, almost silent. The kind of laugh that tastes like metal. It didn't last long. She sat down on the floor, leaning back against the fridge, and looked up at the stained ceiling. Somewhere in the apartment above, a baby cried. Somewhere below, a couple fought in muffled Spanish. Somewhere inside her, a wall cracked and let in something cold and sharp. Her phone buzzed again, a new text. Not help, not a miracle. Just a message from the electric company. Final reminder, disconnection scheduled, 10 a.m. tomorrow. She clicked off the screen. The kitchen dimmed again. Then she did what every instinct in her body begged her not to do. She reached into the cabinet above the stove, pulled down a tin box with a broken clasp. Inside, a social worker's card, a few expired coupons, and a folded photo of her wedding day. Her smile too wide, Darren's too thin. She pushed the photo aside and found what she was looking for, a dusty old pack of Luna's infant pain meds. The expiration date was 2 years ago. She stared at it, not as a solution, not yet, but as a reminder of how close the edge really was. She put it back. Something cracked outside the window. She looked. Snow? It had begun to fall in thick, lazy flakes, soft, steady, silent. The world outside was whitewashing itself clean while hers bled into gray. She stood again, made her way back to Luna's room, and lay beside her daughter on the narrow mattress. The child stirred and turned, pressing her burning cheek against Mira's chest. The smell of baby shampoo lingered faintly in Luna's curls. Mira closed her eyes. She didn't sleep. She just waited. For something, for anything. The room grew colder. Somewhere, the lemon began to shrivel just a little more. And as the light from the hallway night bulb flickered and faded, Mira whispered not a prayer, not a plea, but a question. What now? A soft knock answered from inside her chest. Not from outside. Not yet. Snow melted into gray slush under her boots as Mira carried Luna down the long stretch of cracked sidewalk. Her arms ached from the weight, but she didn't stop. The morning light was pale, almost colorless. A stray dog trotted by, sniffing at a garbage bag half buried in snow. Somewhere far away, a church bell rang 9 times. She crossed the street toward the supermarket. The automatic doors slid open with a hiss, releasing a wave of warmth and the sterile scent of bleach and citrus cleaner. The fluorescent lights above flickered. The aisles stretched endlessly, bright and cruel in their abundance. Shelves full of things she couldn't afford. Luna's head rested on her shoulder. The little girl was quiet, her breath shallow against Mira's neck. Her fever had broken during the night but left her weak and clingy. Mira kissed her hair and whispered, "It's okay, baby. Just a few minutes, all right?" She pushed a squeaky cart past the produce section. Green apples, shiny tomatoes, the sweet smell of oranges that reminded her of her mother's kitchen, back when life had flavor. Mira stopped at the dairy aisle. Rows of milk and yogurt stared back. She reached for a small carton, looked at the price, and froze. Her hand trembled. She put it back. Moved to the formula shelf. Her fingers brushed over the boxes, the same brand Luna had used as a baby. She checked the price tag again. The number blurred. Her pulse quickened. She gripped the box tighter, then set it down. Picked it up again. Her reflection in the plastic door looked like a ghost arguing with herself. Behind her, someone cleared their throat. Mira turned. A security guard stood a few feet away, heavy jacket, radio clipped to his shoulder, eyes sharp but bored. He didn't say anything, just watched. She nodded politely, pretending to compare ingredients. Her stomach twisted. She hated the way his stare crawled across her back, as if she were already guilty. Luna coughed. The sound echoed off the tiled floor like an accusation. Mira's throat tightened. She picked up the formula box again, feeling the paper corner dig into her palm. Then a voice called softly behind her. "Mira, is that you?" She turned. A woman stood at the end of the aisle. Wool scarf, name tag, tired smile. Cleo, a former co-worker from the hotel laundry room. They hadn't spoken since Mira quit 2 months ago when childcare costs swallowed her paycheck. "Cleo," she whispered, almost relieved. "You still work here?" "Yeah," Cleo said, walking closer. "Barely. Double shifts. My back's killing me. What about you? You look—" Her voice trailed off. She noticed Luna's flushed cheeks, Mira's cracked lips. The silence filled the space between them. Mira managed a small smile. Just shopping. For formula? Cleo asked gently. Mira looked down at the box in her hand. Her throat closed up. I was just seeing the price. Cleo glanced at the guard who was still pretending not to watch. Then, without a word, she reached for her wallet, slipped out a card, and swiped it at the self-checkout. The machine beeped. Payment approved. Mira froze. Wait, Cleo, no. Her words stumbled over each other. You don't have to. It's okay, Cleo said softly, placing the bag in Mira's cart. Just take it. You can pay me back when things get better. Mira felt her chest tighten with both gratitude and humiliation. I can't let you do that. You can, Cleo said, because I've been where you are. The security guard walked closer. Everything all right here? Cleo smiled tightly. All good, sir. But he didn't leave. A manager appeared behind him, a short man in a navy vest. Cleo, can I speak with you a moment? His tone was clipped. He glanced at the register screen, at the transaction, then back at her. You can't pay for a customer's items on your own account. You know the policy. It was just formula, she said quietly. Doesn't matter. He handed her a slip of paper. You're suspended until further notice. Cleo stared at him, then at Mira. The silence between them stretched thin. I'm sorry, the manager said, though his eyes weren't. He walked away. The guard followed, muttering into his radio. Cleo exhaled, a sound half laugh, half broken sigh. Mira's heart dropped into her stomach. Cleo, I know, I'll fix this. I'll talk to him. Don't, Cleo said. It's done. She started toward the door. Mira grabbed Luna's blanket and chased after her, the cart clattering behind. They stepped out into the gray daylight. Cars hissed through puddles. Steam rose from manholes like breath from the earth. Cleo stopped under the awning. Mira caught up, out of breath, words tumbling. I didn't mean for this. I didn't ask. I know, Cleo said. She smiled again, but it looked painful. You didn't have to. Rain began to fall, thin and steady. Cleo pulled up her hood. You know, I used to think pride would save me, she said. Turns out, it just keeps you hungry longer. Mira swallowed. I'll pay you back, I swear. Maybe one day, Cleo said, but that's not what this is about. She took a step backward toward the street, looked both ways, then turned to go. But before she did, she said one more thing, her voice softer than the rain. Tomorrow can be different, Mira. Just don't give up before it gets here. Then she was gone, swallowed by the wet gray air. Mira stood frozen. The formula bag felt heavy in her hand. She looked down at Luna, who blinked sleepily against her shoulder. The child's lips parted, whispering through fever dream murmur. Mama, I'm hungry. That was the twist of the knife. Mira bit her lip until it bled, tasting metal. She looked back through the glass doors, saw Cleo's empty checkout lane, the faint reflection of her own face beside it. When she finally turned away, the city stretched before her, crowded yet empty, loud yet indifferent. She walked through the rain, one hand clutching the bag like contraband. Drops rolled down her face, mixing with tears she refused to admit were hers. At home, the apartment was colder. The heat had shut off sometime that afternoon. She boiled water on the small camping stove, mixed the formula, tested it on her wrist. Warm enough. Luna drank slowly, eyes closing again. Mira sat beside her on the worn sofa, watching her daughter's chest rise and fall. The hum of the street outside filled the silence. On the counter, her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. For a heartbeat, her mind dared to hope. But it was a bank alert, account officially frozen pending unauthorized withdrawals under review. The last of her balance was gone. She stared at the screen until it dimmed. Something broke quietly inside her then, not a sob, not a scream, just the fragile sound of a person running out of fight. She opened the cupboard. Half a loaf of stale bread, one onion, a single can of beans. Her pride had been all she had left, and even that now tasted bitter. She sat down at the table, head in her hands. The hum of the refrigerator filled the room, low and hollow. That same lemon from last night still sat on the windowsill, smaller now, shriveled. She stared at it for a long time. Outside, thunder rolled low across the city. The lights flickered. Luna stirred and mumbled something incoherent. Mira got up, tucked her in, brushed the hair off her forehead. The girl's skin was still too warm. Mira lay down beside her and closed her eyes. She dreamed of walking through a supermarket where every shelf was bare, except for rows and rows of lemons. Bright, useless, mocking her with their sourness. She picked one up and bit into it. The acid burned her tongue, but beneath it was something else. Sharp, clean, honest. When she woke, her cheeks were wet. Morning light crept through the blinds. The city was quiet again. The formula can sat empty on the counter. She looked at her reflection in the microwave door, pale, hollow-eyed, but still standing. Pride had kept her alive, but kindness, someone else's, had saved her child. That thought alone both comforted and haunted her. She reached for her coat, the one with the torn lining. She would find Cleo today. Say thank you. Say sorry. Maybe both. She didn't know how, but she had to. Then, as she stepped out into the cold morning, she saw something across the street. A sleek black car parked under a flickering streetlight. Its windows tinted, engine idling. The driver's silhouette motionless inside. She hesitated. Something about it sent a ripple of unease down her spine. Luna coughed again. Mira turned her attention back to her daughter, pulling her scarf tighter. The car stayed there, quiet, watching. And when she looked back again, it was gone. She didn't know it yet, but that moment, the shadow behind the glass, was where everything would start to change. The sound came first, tires slicing wet asphalt, fast, too fast. Then came the light, bright, sweeping low, white as panic. And then, a scream. Not loud, not sharp, just a breath that broke too fast to hold. Mira collapsed to the curb as her knees buckled beneath the weight of her own body and the child she was cradling. The street swam sideways. Cold water rushed up through her jeans. Her hands scraped concrete as she curled protectively over Luna, who whimpered against her chest. The stroller lay overturned beside them, one wheel spinning like a clock running out of time. The black sedan stopped inches from her boots. Its engine purred like something alive. A door slammed. Footsteps, slow, expensive. She looked up. A man stepped into the glow of the headlights. He was tall, late 50s maybe, African-American, clean-shaven, steel gray at the temples, wearing a dark wool overcoat over a charcoal suit, tailored so well it moved like liquid. He didn't speak. He just extended a gloved hand. Mira didn't move. The wind cut between buildings, lifting the hem of her coat. Her fingers clung tighter to Luna, who was burning up again. Mira's lips parted, breath fogging. She couldn't tell if it was pain or shame that clenched her chest tighter. "You're freezing," the man said quietly. His voice was low, even. "Let me help you." His hand stayed in the air, still, waiting. Behind him, the car's interior glowed with soft amber light. Leather seats, warmth, dry. Luna coughed. That decided it. Mira nodded once. Barely. He helped her up. Not hurriedly, not with pity. Just steady pressure beneath her elbow as if she were someone who deserved to be handled gently. She didn't ask where they were going, didn't have the strength to question it. Inside the car, the heat hit her skin like a memory. Luna curled into her lap, eyes shut, cheeks flushed, lips dry. Mira held her close, rocking slightly. The man drove without music, without conversation, the wipers brushing slow arcs of clarity through the storm. The city blurred outside, gray and wet and unfeeling. 15 minutes passed before she found her voice. "Why did you stop?" He didn't look at her. "Because I saw you." His answer was so simple it didn't make sense. The car pulled into a gated lot beside a small brick building with frosted glass windows. No signs, no crowds, just quiet, private care. Mira hesitated. "It's a clinic," he said. "They're part of my foundation. They'll see your daughter. No charge." She blinked. "What foundation?" He finally turned to her. His eyes were kind but not soft. Eyes that had seen ruin and kept walking. "Hail Hope Foundation. he said. "I'm Victor Hale." Mira felt her stomach twist. Not because the name meant something to her yet, but because something in his tone made her feel seen in a way that was unfamiliar and unbearable at the same time. Victor helped carry Luna in. The nurses knew him. No questions. No waiting. Mira sat in the corner of a warm room as Luna was treated by a pediatrician in gentle tones. Fever reducer, hydration, nebulizer. Her daughter breathed easier within the hour. She didn't even realize she was crying until a tissue appeared in front of her. Victor stood there not watching her, just holding it out. She took it. Their fingers didn't touch. Later, as the clock neared midnight, Victor walked her and Luna back to the car. The storm had softened into mist. Lights shimmered on wet pavement like ghosts, trying to remember who they were. "You can stay in the guest wing at my place tonight," he said. Mira froze. He raised a hand before she could answer. "Just for the night. It's warm, safe. No one else is there." She glanced down at Luna, now asleep in her arms, breathing easier, and nodded. Victor's home wasn't a mansion. It was worse. It was quiet. Not empty, but full of a kind of silence that came from living alone for too long. The walls were high, bookshelves full, furniture warm in tone but barely used. There was a fireplace, a faint smell of cedar and old cologne. He showed her to the guest wing, actually an entire apartment separate from the main house. Clean, warm, stocked. She laid Luna in the bed, covered her, stood watching her breathe for too long. Victor stood in the doorway. "There's food in the fridge. Shower's hot. I'll be across the hall if you need anything." She turned. "Why are you doing this?" He didn't blink. "Because I've been there," he said. "I've been at the bottom, and I remember what it felt like when someone didn't walk away." Mira didn't answer. She just nodded. He left. She locked the door behind him, not out of fear, out of reflex. She took a hot shower, ate a piece of bread and a hard-boiled egg, then sat in the small armchair by the window and stared at the night. Outside, the rain had stopped. The city lights blinked like faraway lighthouses. Mira closed her eyes. Her mother's voice floated up from memory. "Pride is a cold pillow, but some nights it's the only one you've got." Mira never thought she'd sleep in a stranger's house. Never thought she'd be so grateful for warmth offered by someone who owed her nothing. She opened her eyes again, just as a streetlight flickered and went dark. In the corner of the room, the lemon from her fridge, she'd shoved it into her coat pocket without thinking, sat on the windowsill. A small bruise had bloomed under the skin. She stared at it, breathing slow. In the morning, she would wake up in a bed that wasn't hers. But tonight she wasn't cold, and Luna was breathing. And somewhere across the hall, a man who had built something from his own ruin had offered her a key, without asking what she could give in return. The question rose again, softer this time. What now? But this time, the silence that answered didn't feel so empty. It felt like pause. It felt like maybe, just maybe, it was waiting to become music. The envelope was already on the table when she walked into the kitchen. Brown paper, thick seal, no writing except a small label scrawled in clean block letters. Deliver to 418 Roslyn Avenue. No questions. Victor stood by the window sipping black coffee, steam rising in a thin spiral. His tie was loose around his collar. A quiet morning. Outside, the city woke slowly, light breaking through slate clouds, sirens faint in the distance, snow melting off rooftops in quiet drips. Mira paused in the doorway, still in her borrowed sweater. Luna was asleep in the guest room, finally resting without coughing. "You're up early," Victor said without turning around. She looked at the envelope again. Something about it unsettled her. "I didn't sleep much," she replied. "Me neither." He finally turned. "I have a favor to ask." She didn't answer right away. Her eyes flicked to the table, then back to him. "It's nothing complicated," he said. "Just a delivery. The address is already on it. You don't have to say anything, just drop it off and leave." He took another sip. Calm. Casual. But Mira noticed the way his thumb tapped twice on the mug, like a metronome measuring risk. "I'll pay you," he added, "to $200. Mira swallowed. 200. That was formula, medicine, maybe enough groceries to stretch 2 weeks. Her mind reached for it before her conscience could intervene. "What's inside?" she asked, already knowing he wouldn't answer. "You don't need to know." "I think I do." Victor looked at her for a long moment. Not coldly, not with pressure, but with weight. The weight of a man used to people saying yes. Mira looked down at the envelope again. Her fingers itched. Then Luna's voice echoed faintly from the other room. "Mama!" She turned. Just a whisper, but it changed everything. Mira stepped forward, picked up the envelope, held it, then slowly set it back down. "I can't." Victor didn't move. "She's still sick," Mira said quietly. "She needs clean food, clean air, and I can't take money if I don't know what it's for." He didn't answer. "I'm not judging you," she added, "but my daughter, she watches everything. I don't ever want her to think I said yes to something I didn't understand." Victor's eyes flicked to the window, then back to her. He nodded once. A slow breath escaped his chest like something that had been waiting to be let go. "Good," he said. "That's what I hoped you'd say." She blinked. "What?" He reached into his coat and pulled out a folded sheet of paper, set it on top of the envelope. "I needed to be sure," he said. She opened it. A short offer letter. Hail Hope Foundation. Part-time administrative assistant, flexible hours, $1,600 monthly stipend to start. Benefits to follow. Mira stared at it. Victor watched her reaction closely. "This isn't charity," he said. "You're sharp, organized. You don't panic under pressure. And you have more integrity than most people I've met in 20 years. She didn't answer. Her throat felt tight again. She hated how often that was happening lately. "I run a foundation," he continued, "but I don't trust easily. People come through the door every day needing something, but not all of them know how to protect what matters." He nodded at the envelope. "That was never real," he said. "Just a sealed packet of old receipts." Mira let out a slow, broken laugh. "Why would you test me?" Victor shrugged. "Because the ones worth hiring usually don't even know they're being tested." She sat down slowly at the table, as if the weight of the paper might tip her over. "I've never worked in an office before," she said. "Good, no bad habits." She looked up at him. "Why me?" He hesitated, then walked toward the counter, picked up a small frame she hadn't noticed before. It held a black and white photo. A woman, young, thin, unsmiling, holding a toddler in one arm and a mop in the other. "My mother," he said. "She raised me alone. 3 jobs. No help. I watched her survive things that would have shattered most people. But she taught me one thing. If you ever get the chance to pull someone else out of that same ditch, you take it. No questions." He set the frame down. "You remind me of her." Mira looked back down at the offer letter. Her hands trembled slightly. Not from cold this time. From the unfamiliar weight of hope. She nodded. "I'll take it." Victor smiled. Not with triumph, just quiet recognition. "You start tomorrow," he said. "But today, go home. Rest. Eat something warm. Come back when your shoulders aren't still bracing for the next fall." She stood. He handed her a debit card. Temporary employee funds. Preloaded. "Don't lose it," he said. "I won't." Mira left the house with the card in her pocket, Luna bundled tight on her back. The bus ride home was quiet. The heat worked. The city outside no longer looked as hostile, just tired. In their apartment, she warmed soup, fed Luna, lit the small candle someone had given her last Christmas. The flicker danced on the wall like it had somewhere to be. She placed the card on the kitchen counter next to the shriveled lemon. It felt symbolic somehow. One bitter, one promise. Luna giggled in her sleep. Mira walked over and kissed her forehead. Cooler now. Later that night, as the storm whispered against the window panes and the world pulled its covers tight, Mira sat down at the table. She read the offer letter again, then folded it carefully and placed it in the tin box where she kept her important things. The expired coupons, the old photo, the medical forms. This time, it felt like something different was taking up space. The silence around her wasn't empty. It felt earned. She thought about pride, about how it nearly killed her, and how kindness, offered without conditions, brought something back to life in her she hadn't known was still breathing. She whispered to the dark, not to God, not to anyone, just to herself. I said no, and still, someone said yes to me. And for the first time in weeks, she let herself cry. Not because she was scared, but because maybe, just maybe, something was beginning. The photocopier jammed again. Mira pulled the drawer open, tugged gently at the curled sheet of paper, ink still warm and smudged like a fingerprint. The hallway smelled of toner and stale coffee. Down the corridor, a child's laugh rang out from the playroom, quick, clear, then gone. She hadn't expected to feel this useful. It had been 2 weeks since Victor handed her that offer letter. 2 weeks of waking up before the sun, tying Luna's scarf, catching the early bus with her head high. The Hale Hope Foundation building sat tucked in a quiet corner of the city. Red brick, arched windows, a place that looked like it had weathered storms and decided to keep standing. Mira liked it there. The clack of keys, the feel of a clean workspace, even the scratchy tag of her ID badge clipped to her sweater. She liked sorting intake forms, returning calls, restocking the care packages for mothers who walked in with nothing but a diaper bag and tired eyes. It made her feel real again, not just surviving, participating. She pushed the reset button on the copier and heard it whir back to life. Her reflection stared back in the glass. Different woman, not the one from the grocery aisle. She straightened, grabbed the forms, and turned, just as 2 women passed behind her in the hallway. I'm just saying, she showed up out of nowhere and now she's sitting in meetings with Victor? Their steps didn't pause. He's not exactly known for hiring like that. Maybe she's more involved than she lets on. A giggle, a sharp click of heels, then silence. Mira stood very still. The weight of the forms in her arms felt heavier. She walked back to her desk. A tightness curled in her chest, slow and sticky. She sat, typed, filed, smiled at people passing. But something had cracked, just a little, beneath her ribs. At lunch, she went to the break room and found it half empty. A few nods. No one sat across from her. Her sandwich tasted like paper. The thermostat clicked. Fluorescent lights buzzed. When she stood to leave, her chair scraped louder than usual. By late afternoon, the whispers had a shape. An email, anonymous, sent to HR and CC'd to the board. The subject line, conflict of interest, Hale Hope Foundation staff conduct. The body contained a single, grainy photo. Mira, stepping out of Victor Hale's front door. Late evening, Luna asleep in her arms, her coat open, her head turned to look behind her, expression unreadable in the low light. No caption, no explanation, but enough to raise questions. She found out from Serena, the front desk coordinator, who leaned in with wide eyes and a whisper so fast Mira barely caught the words. Management saw it. Emergency meeting. You didn't hear it from me, okay? Her ears rang. Her palms went cold. Victor wasn't in the building. Out for the day. Board retreat. Mira walked to her desk, sat, waited. At 3:47 p.m., she received the email. Effective immediately, you are placed on paid administrative leave, pending review of potential ethical violations. Please refrain from entering Foundation premises until further notice. She stared at the screen. Around her, nothing changed. Phones rang, printers clicked. Downstairs, children laughed again. The building didn't care. It had seen worse. But Mira felt something old inside her start to coil, something that knew how to retreat before the next blow landed. She gathered her things slowly. No one looked up. At the door she hesitated, her hand on the frame, then turned and walked out. Snow had begun to fall again, quiet, relentless. She sat on the bus like a statue. Luna was already at daycare, too far for her to reach in time. She didn't want to show up early, didn't want the teacher to see her like this. She rode an extra loop, pretending to have somewhere else to be. The city smeared past the window like wet chalk. Back home, the walls closed in fast. The lemon was still on the sill, browner now, soft on one side. She opened the cupboard, stared at a half bag of rice. She didn't cook, didn't eat, just waited. At 6:03 p.m., her phone buzzed. A message from Victor. Only 3 words. I trust you. No context, no follow-up. She stared at the screen, then let it fall to the couch beside her. The tears came slow, not from fear, not even from sadness, but from the shock of someone, somewhere, still believing her. She didn't respond. Didn't need to. That night, she wrote a letter she didn't send. It read, "I thought dignity was something you had to earn, but maybe it's something you have to protect, even when it's already yours." She folded it, placed it in the tin box beside the offer letter and the expired coupons. Luna came home with a sticker on her sweater and chocolate on her lips. Mira smiled like nothing was wrong. She tucked her in, turned off the light, and sat alone by the window, watching the streetlights blur in the snow. She didn't know what the board would decide, but she knew who she was, and that somehow felt like the first armor she'd ever owned. The knock came after dark. 3 short taps, then silence. Mira froze at the kitchen sink. The faucet dripped once, twice. She set the plate down, water still running, and turned toward the door. It came again, louder this time, thud, thud, thud. She glanced at the clock, 9:42 p.m. Luna was already asleep, curled beneath the thin blanket, one arm wrapped around her stuffed lamb. The air smelled faintly of dish soap and candle wax. Outside, the hallway light flickered, casting long shadows under the door. Mira wiped her hands, stepped closer. Her heartbeat matched the ticking of the wall clock. When she opened the door, he was there. Darren, her ex-husband, unshaven, eyes bloodshot. His jacket damp from the rain, collar turned up like armor. His smile, thin, uncertain, carried the sour smell of whiskey and old regret. "Hey, Mira," he said softly. "You look good." Her body stiffened, breath catching between her ribs. The sound of his voice was a wound she thought had already scarred over. "What do you want?" she said, quieter than she meant to. He leaned against the door frame, pretending ease. "Can I come in? It's cold." "No." He gave a slow, crooked nod, then sighed. "Fair enough, I deserve that." His hands went into his pockets. "I just came to see my daughter. Haven't seen her in—" "She's asleep." He looked past her into the dim room. "Can I at least—" "No." The word came sharper this time. It cut the air clean. Something flickered in his eyes. The charm slipped. His jaw tightened. "Still the same, huh? Always locking people out." Mira didn't answer. She waited. Darren pulled out his phone. "Fine. Let's skip the reunion part." He swiped the screen once, then turned it toward her. Text messages glowed in the dark. Her name, her photo, the email screenshot, the same one that had nearly cost her job. A tabloid subject line drafted but unsent. Foundation director's mistress exposed. Exclusive source claims affair scandal. Mira's stomach twisted. He smiled again, smaller this time. "You see, people pay for stories like that. 10 grand, easy. Maybe more if the paper smells blood." She stared at him, throat dry. "You wouldn't." He tilted his head. "You really think I wouldn't?" The rain tapped the awning above the doorway. A bus hissed by on the street below, headlights slicing through the drizzle. Mira's breath fogged in the cold air. "What do you want?" she whispered. He slipped the phone back into his pocket. 5,000, that's all. I walk away. No one hears a thing." She almost laughed. It came out like a broken cough. "I don't even have $5. He smirked. "Then find someone who does. That old man who hired you, maybe?" The words hit her harder than she expected, not because they were cruel, but because of how small he sounded saying them, like a man drowning in his own pettiness, reaching for any rope to pull down with him. She straightened, shoulders square. "You can leave now." Darren blinked. "I'm not kidding, Mira." "Neither am I." For a heartbeat, neither spoke. The hum of the refrigerator filled the silence. Then he stepped forward. She didn't move. His shadow stretched across the floor, long and trembling. He lowered his voice. "You think you're better than me now? Working for some fancy charity? Wearing other people's pity like perfume?" She didn't answer. He laughed, harsh and short. "You always had that look, like you're waiting for the world to apologize." She turned, picked up the old phone from the counter. The screen lit up her face. Calm, composed. She took a photo of him standing in her doorway, then another of his car parked on the street. "What the hell are you doing?" "Protecting myself," she said. "And Luna." His expression shifted. First confusion, then rage. "You think a picture's gonna stop me?" "No," she said softly, "but I already sent it to someone who can." The lie rolled off her tongue before she even realized it was one. He stared at her, trying to read her eyes. "You're bluffing." Mira held his gaze. "Try me." For the first time, he hesitated. His hand twitched in his pocket. The silence grew thick. Then he scoffed, stepped back into the hall. "You know what? Forget it. You've always been poison." She didn't respond, just closed the door. The lock clicked. Mira leaned against it, breathing hard. Her palms shook. She wanted to collapse. Instead, she walked to the table, sat down, and opened her phone for real this time. No sent photo, no message. She hesitated, then opened her email and typed, "Victor, I'm sorry to reach out like this. Darren came back tonight. He has messages and photos. He's threatening to sell them. I didn't know what else to do." She hovered over the send button, then pressed it. The response came an hour later. "Stay calm. Don't answer the door again. We'll handle this." She stared at the words until they blurred. The next morning, the story was everywhere. Not the one Darren threatened. The real one. A press release from Hail Hope Foundation, public, precise, and unflinching. "We are aware of extortion attempts targeting one of our employees. We stand firmly beside her and are cooperating with authorities to ensure the protection and integrity of all staff members." Mira read it 3 times. Her name wasn't mentioned, but everyone knew. The office knew, the board knew, the world knew. And for the first time, she wasn't ashamed. At noon, a knock came again. She opened the door carefully. 2 detectives, plain clothes, courteous but firm. They asked a few questions, took her statement, showed her printed screenshots, Darren's messages, traced to his phone. He'd been picked up near the river that morning, tried to withdraw cash, tried to run. She signed her name at the bottom of the report. Her hand barely shook. When they left, she stood at the window and watched the gray light spill through the clouds. A soft sound behind her, Luna's laughter, faint and sleepy. Mira turned. The girl was awake, sitting up, playing with the stuffed lamb. Safe, safe. She went to the kitchen. The lemon still sat there, more fragile now than ever. She picked it up, rolling it in her hand. It had grown lighter, empty almost. She sliced it open. Inside, it was dry, hollow. But the smell that rose, sharp, clean, alive, filled the room with something close to relief. Later, when Victor called, she answered on the second ring. "Are you okay?" he asked. "I think so." "Good. The team's relieved. They'll finish the report tomorrow. Don't come in yet. Rest." She hesitated. "Did you know he'd—" "I didn't," he said quietly, "but I knew he might. People like that don't stay gone." Silence stretched between them. Then he said something that caught her off guard. "I'm proud of how you handled it." Mira almost laughed. "I was terrified. Courage isn't the absence of fear," he said. "It's what you do with it." The words lingered long after the call ended. That night, she tucked Luna in and sat at the table, staring at the empty lemon half beside her cup of tea. She didn't throw it away. She placed it on the sill, beside the candle that burned low and steady. Outside, sirens wailed faintly in the distance, swallowed by wind. Somewhere, a street lamp flickered back to life. For the first time, the silence in her apartment didn't feel like punishment. It felt like peace earned the hard way. But as she turned off the lights and walked toward Luna's room, a thought whispered through her chest. Quiet, uneasy, persistent. If the past could find her once, could it find her again? She stood in the doorway watching her daughter breathe. The lemon scent still hung in the air. The phone rang once, then again. Mira ignored it. It was nearly midnight. The windows were fogged from the soup simmering on the stove. The candle on the sill burned low, flickering against the curve of the lemon husk, now hollowed out, its skin leathery and pale. Luna was already asleep, her breath soft and even. The phone rang a third time. Mira wiped her hands on the towel, crossed the room, and picked it up. The screen lit with a number she didn't recognize. Her thumb hovered. Then she answered. A voice, choked, familiar, trembling. "Mira." She froze. "It's me." Silence swallowed the kitchen. "Seren?" Her older sister's name felt like broken glass between her teeth. "I know it's late. I wouldn't call if I had anywhere else." Mira didn't speak. "I'm not asking for anything," Seren continued. I'm outside." Mira turned toward the window, pushed aside the curtain, and there, beneath the street lamp, hunched in a torn coat with a single rolling suitcase at her side, stood Seren, the sister who hadn't called in 2 years, who'd once told Mira she had made her own bed by choosing Darren, who'd said she couldn't help forever. Now her eyes were sunken, hair wet, makeup smeared. Her figure seemed smaller somehow, not just from the cold, but from something deeper, something hollowed out from the inside. Mira unlocked the door. Seren stepped in slowly. The hallway swallowed her shadow. The silence between them was heavy, dense, shaped by years of judgment, bitterness, and blood. "I was in Chicago," Seren said softly, her voice raw. "Ron left, took everything, the house, the accounts, even the car." She didn't cry, not exactly. Her lips trembled. Her eyes stayed dry. "I've been staying in a shelter near the highway for 3 days. I didn't know where else." She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. Mira turned away, walked into the kitchen, ladled soup into a bowl without a word. Steam rose into the cold air. She set it on the table. Seren didn't sit. The distance between them stretched taut. History trembled in the quiet. "You were right," Seren whispered, "about all of it." Mira didn't move, didn't look up. "I judged you," her sister said, each word heavier than the last. "I thought I was better. Thought staying with Ron made me smarter, stronger. But I was just afraid." Mira folded the towel slowly. Serene's voice cracked. "I used to hate you for being weak. Now I think, maybe you were braver than me the whole time." Mira finally looked at her. "You said I chose wrong, that I made my own mess." "I did," Seren whispered, "and I was wrong." The room fell into stillness. Then Mira pulled out the second chair. "Sit down," she said. Seren sat, wrapped her hands around the warm bowl. She didn't eat right away. She just breathed in the smell. Salt, broth, something like safety. Luna stirred in the other room. Mira turned her head, listening, then walked over, gently checked on her daughter, brushed a curl off her forehead. She came back and leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "I wanted to hate you," Mira said quietly, "when you didn't pick up, when you changed your number." Seren nodded, eyes fixed on the bowl. "And tonight," Mira continued, "when I saw you out there, for a moment I thought, good, let her freeze, let her feel what I felt." Seren's eyes filled. She didn't defend herself. She didn't deny it. Mira walked to the window. The street was silent. The light above their building buzzed faintly, casting a pale ring across the sidewalk. "But I remembered Luna's face," Mira said, her voice low. "The way she clutches my hand when she's scared. The way she forgives me before I even ask." She looked back at her sister. "That's the only reason you're here." Seren wiped her cheek. Mira poured herself tea. The cup clinked against the counter. The lemon shell sat beside it, cracked now, almost translucent. Seren took a small bite of the soup. Her hands shook. Mira sat across from her, sipped slowly. They didn't speak for a while. In that silence, forgiveness didn't arrive like sunlight. It came like fog, uneven, cautious, settling in corners, but never all at once. "I'm not staying long," Seren murmured. "You'll stay as long as you need." Seren looked up, startled. Mira didn't smile, but her face softened. Luna needs to know what grace looks like. Seren reached across the table, not to grab, not to beg, just to place her hand there. Mira let it stay. Outside, the wind rattled the fire escape. A dog barked down the block. The candle flickered again, flame bending sideways, then recovering. Seren's voice came again, a whisper now. "What changed you, Mira?" She looked toward the hallway, then down at her hands. "Someone gave me a job," she said. "But more than that, they trusted me before I even trusted myself." Seren closed her eyes. Mira rose, pulled the blanket from the couch, placed it gently over her sister's shoulders. "You can sleep here tonight," she said. "It's not much." "It's everything," Seren replied. Mira didn't answer. She walked back toward Luna's room. At the doorway, she paused, looked at her daughter sleeping peacefully, hand curled beneath her chin. Then she looked back. Her sister asleep at the table. The soup bowl empty now. The candle burned low. On the sill, the hollowed lemon cast a long shadow against the fogged glass. It looked like something that had given all it could, and still stayed. Camera shutters clicked like thunder beneath chandeliers. The lights of the Hale Foundation ballroom shone golden, cascading over polished floors, velvet drapes, crystal vases brimming with lilies and baby's breath. People in dark suits and warm dresses sipped champagne and murmured in soft, rehearsed laughter. At the far end of the room, a white podium stood beneath a tall banner, Annual Impact Gala, celebrating those who rise. Mira stood behind the curtain, not hiding, just breathing. Her dress was simple, slate blue, borrowed from one of the other staffers who insisted she needed to look like a woman who knew what grace felt like. Her heels pinched. Her palms were damp. She reached into her clutch and pulled out the small object she'd carried for months now. The lemon. Well, what was left of it, dried, flattened, fragile. It no longer held scent, no longer threatened to rot or bruise. It was just a memory pressed into shape. A reminder of the night she'd stared into a fridge and found only one bitter truth, and still chose to keep going. Behind her, someone whispered her name. It was Victor, dressed in black tie slightly crooked as always. "They're ready," he said gently. "I don't know if I am," she answered. He smiled. "That's how you know you are." She stepped onto the stage. The lights caught her like warmth. The applause rose, then softened as she reached the podium. Her voice almost failed her, but didn't. "Thank you," she began, then paused. The ballroom held its breath. "When I walked into the Hale Foundation building 3 months ago, I didn't think I belonged," she said. "I had no resume, no references, just a feverish child and a desperate heart." A few people shifted in their chairs. She kept going. "But someone believed in me before I knew how to believe in myself." She glanced at Victor, and that belief gave me room to stand up straight again. The applause that followed wasn't loud, but it was warm. Mira stepped down into a soft sea of faces and hands. Luna clapped from the front row, her dress polka-dotted, a red ribbon in her hair. Serene sat beside her, still tired-eyed, but solid, present. Later, after the wine glasses were cleared and the stage dimmed, Victor found her on the balcony, looking out over the city skyline. "You did well," he said. "I didn't faint," she replied. "That's more than I can say for some of our board." She smiled. Then he grew quiet. "I want to ask you something," he said, not looking at her. She turned. "There's a new initiative," he continued. "We're building a support program for single mothers transitioning out of shelters, long-term housing, mentorship, childcare assistance. It needs someone who understands the fight, who's lived it. I can't think of anyone better." Her mouth parted slightly. "You want me to lead it?" "With guidance. But yes, you've earned this." She didn't answer right away. Her heart was loud. "And something else," he said more softly, "unrelated to work." She turned fully now. He searched her eyes, then asked, not in confidence but in quiet offering, "Has your heart made room for anyone else yet?" She exhaled, not a sigh. Something lighter. "It has," she said. Victor nodded, waiting. She looked back at the skyline. "For me," she said. "It's for me now, for Luna, for the women I used to be." She let the words settle, then turned to him. "And if there's room for anything more, I'll know when it's time." Victor smiled, not in disappointment but in respect. It wasn't a no. It was a woman choosing herself first. Later, they walked down together. Luna ran to Mira's arms. Serene held coats and smiled, as if the air between them had finally found peace. Outside, the air was cold but not cruel. Snow had melted. The sidewalks glistened under the orange glow of street lamps. They walked home slowly, through quiet neighborhoods Mira had once passed with her head down, fearing every reflection. Now she moved differently, not as someone arriving, but as someone returning. Back at the apartment, Mira tucked Luna into bed. Seren poured tea in the kitchen. The lemon husk still sat in the center of the table, brittle, unchanged. Mira held it a moment longer. Then she opened the window and let the wind take it. It drifted down through the night, weightless. She lit a new candle. The flame caught quickly. She sat by the window, sipping her tea, watching dawn stain the edge of the sky with pale gold. The storm had passed, but it wasn't the sun that had saved her. It was the choice to stay standing even when no light came. And now, for the first time in years, she wasn't waiting to be rescued. She was walking forward into something she hadn't felt in a long time. Not safety, not certainty, but beginning. There are moments in life when everything falls silent. Not the kind of silence that soothes, but the kind that echoes. The kind that sits in the cracks of an empty fridge, in the middle of a cold room, or between unanswered phone calls. It's in that silence that we learn what we're really made of. Not when life is full, but when it's been emptied of everything we thought would save us. Sometimes all that's left is a question, and sometimes the answer is just to keep going. Because survival isn't always loud. Sometimes it's the quiet choice to get up one more morning, to pour soup into a chipped bowl, to whisper comfort to someone else when you have none left for yourself. That, too, is courage. There's a kind of power in those who keep walking, even when their pride is bruised and their hands are empty. A quiet, invisible grace that doesn't ask to be seen, but still shapes the world in ways we rarely notice. And in the most unexpected places, in a warm cup of tea, a borrowed coat, a stranger's hand that doesn't let go, we are reminded humanity is not measured by what we own, but by what we give when we have almost nothing left. Forgiveness doesn't always come with a grand gesture. It can come in the form of an open door, an empty chair pulled out, a bowl of soup left waiting, and dignity. Dignity is choosing not to let the world turn your heart bitter. It's staying soft when life has tried to harden you. It's saying, I still believe, even after everything. Sometimes the storm doesn't break all at once. Sometimes the dawn is slow, but it comes. And when it does, when the light finally spills over the edge of the longest night, it reminds us of something simple, but easy to forget. We were never just surviving. We were becoming. If this story touched you, if somewhere in the silence you saw your own reflection, we invite you to share your thoughts in the comments below. Tell us where you're listening from. Tell us what this story meant to you, and if you believe in the quiet strength of everyday people. Don't forget to follow, subscribe, and be part of the stories still waiting to be told. Thank you for being here. And remember, the smallest light can still carry you through the darkest hour.